Welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. Today we're going to try to fix our 1986 Dodge Ramcharger's rear hatch. If you saw this in my last video, it seems to be a pretty common thing. So basically the hatch is fiberglass, and I've looked for a few short tutorials, whatever, online. A lot of people give bad advice on patching fiberglass, and not that I'm any kind of authority on anything, but I've actually seen videos lately where the guy was patching his boat hull and he had a crack like this. He didn't even sand the area. He literally just wiped the resin on and put some sheets on it and went and drove that boat in the water, and it didn't leak, and he said she's all fixed. Well, that's not right. So we're going to try to do a little bit better, but I'm going to have to end up painting at least the gold half of this. The other paint, if you can kind of see it, still has a nice sheen to it. I think it'll clean up and be just fine, but the gold has got to be replaced because I'm patching these areas. So there's one big crack here, a small crack here, which is going to be more difficult because it's beside where the cutout is, and then this other big corner here, and it does look like it might have had a little filler or something somebody try to patch up and make work before, but we're going to go a little deeper than that. So let me go to work. Here is what we're using to repair with, and it's a UPOL product, so anything UPOL I think is legit. I really like their glazing putty, and I'm waiting to try the Fiberall Lite. I've got a gallon of that in case we need some on this as well. But in order to patch the fiberglass, we're going to use this kit. Here's what it comes with: fiberglass resin, a hardener, measuring cup, mixing sticks, brush, instruction leaflet. So we got a big nice pack of fiberglass matting, and it says this will repair approximately 3 square feet, so that should be plenty for us. But I'm going to try to get this stuff out and just get it measured into place, cut me some strips and pieces before I start grinding away on all that stuff. There we are, my matting's laid out nicely. It's got some thickness to it. I think what I'm going to do, and this is kind of how I was advised to do this. So say we have a crack here, I'm going to go out about 1.5 inches, 2 inches or so, both sides of it, and I'll have to go all the way down. There we go. Bring it on down to there. I don't think I'll have to get into that. I can see a little spider crack there. To do it the right way, I better go ahead and take that out too. So my first layer, as it covers, and I cut one, it's going to conform to that area, and that's going to be ground very deep. I'll probably also go ahead and grind with my cutoff wheel and get that crack gone. Beyond that, my next layer, I'm going to go out another 3 or 4 inches both directions, so here and probably there. So I think I can do, so this will be my number 1 layer, this will be my number 2 layer. If I do that double layered like that and then sand it down, if it needs any more, I think I may try the Fiberall Lite. But 2 layers of this with resin is pretty stout. We'll just see how it goes. I may end up with a 3rd layer. I'll just see how it feels as I'm going along. But that's basically my plan in both areas. So like here, I'll probably take it to there as my deepest, and then on out to here. Or I may want to just go ahead, if I want to make this super strong, is take that all the way down and put a long piece, which actually would probably end up going to here to there, like a really long piece to cover all that. I just know I'll get into a lot of different angles and sanding and stuff, so I may want to try to keep it simple, stupid here, and do the best that I can. I know it's going to be a lot better than when I started, so let me start on the easy street here and see how it goes. I drilled myself a hole right there to kind of see the depth of the thickness of this. I'm guessing it's only about 1/8 of an inch. It does not seem very thick at all. So I think what I'm going to do is end up going with 3 layers. And my first will just be this little pie here. See how she fits nicely. And my number 2 is going to go on beyond that. So I'll just be layering here. And then that piece will actually wrap and fold in nicely. And then my final, which I'll have to trim a little bit more, it's going to end up going something like this. And if I need to, I can cut some little slots in here so it'll lay on in, but anywhere that it's laying through here, I want it to be nice and leveled, so I'm going to have to grind that in and down. Fiberglass is, some people love it and other people are me. So let me go to work with my first little patch here. Here's where I'm at. And I have been wearing the proper protective equipment. I've got a full face respirator and I'm wearing gloves. Try to keep it out of my skin some. So I'll address this in a minute, but here's my pieces. So I lay her in, she's real nice, just like that. That'll have to bend over the edge just a little bit. Piece number 2, I get her laid in right, just like that. That'll have to bend over the edge. And then my piece number 3 is a big dog. And I went ahead, you can see I took her paint off the edge all the way around, because if this lays on and wraps over, I can always sand it off later when I'm reshaping the edge. But I just went ahead and admitted to myself I'm gonna have to reshape every one of these coming in and make it all contour again. The bottom edge I left pretty flat, but you can see the many layers. You know, I think it's been repainted once, so it was probably gel coat, primer, original paint, primer, second layer or second paint job, and then clear coat. So I ground all those off, and I figure they're probably about the thickness of this after it is resined in and sanded down. Should be good. So I feel pretty good about that. Something I'm going to do, what I thought about and realized later, if I could have just left the little bridge here and had taken it down and down and down, I might have had something my paper or my sheet would have laid on top of. But what I've got here is just a piece of foam pipe insulation. I'm going to work it down in there. And not only that, I've cut myself another small piece, if I can find it. Here it is. I'm going to work that small piece underneath here, so that when this is under that, I might have to shorten it a little bit to get it all in perfect place, but it will give me a layer from the underside. And in order to rough that up underneath, I was able to rough it about 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch on both sides. My good old reversed egg bit here. So just laying it flat as I could and roughing that out and walking it as far as I could until it started to thin here. I didn't really want it thinning that out, but I'm going to end up with a nice clamped, or at least a nice profiled edge with some backing. That's kind of what I'm into. So a little bit more strength. We'll see how it all goes, but this little hole here doesn't bother me any, because it'll have resin between it and it'll be pushing the underside piece up to match the top side piece. I think we're getting pretty close on this side. I haven't done anything here or there yet, but I'm kind of going to follow the same process. I probably won't cut this one out as far. I'll take it way down, but not all the way out like I did the other side. Same thing here. So we'll see how it all works out. I've got my resin mixing up here with the activator. I used half of the can and almost a full pack. They said a pea size per 0.3 milliliters, and I did the math on that. And I've got my piece of pipe insulation stuck in, and my random piece of fiberglass matting under it. What I'm going to do before I try to pull that up into place, I was gonna go ahead and just wipe this around good in here. I thought about pouring it. I may pour a little bit, but I don't want it to just be slopped out everywhere all over, you know. Try to make it a little nicer job. I realize fiberglass is messy in itself, but I'm pretty pleased with that idea, just that I'll be able to, yeah, get it up under there good. I'm still wet on that side. Isn't that pretty? Sort of. I got myself some box tape and wrapped my paint paddles in it so that when they clamped, hopefully after this dries, I'm gonna let it dry 3 or 4 days, several days. It should be less of a fight to pull the plastic off versus sticking pieces of wood in there. But you can see this one, I'd cut down, smaller piece, larger piece, big piece. And same thing here. I had a couple of gougy spots, so I leveled those off with smaller pieces. Then I went small. I think this one is 5 layers total, so. She's not pretty, but it's not supposed to be right now. Most of that's getting sanded off and top coated, so. I just let this stuff cure up. I peeled my paint paddles off, and you can kind of see where the lines in my tape. But it actually worked. I just peeled them right off. That plastic didn't stick to the fiberglass itself. And our fiberglass is nice and dried off, ready to sand. So I got a couple different ways of sanding this. I think I'm gonna start with just my good old DA. Some pretty rough 40 grit. Run over it, get it worn way on down, because I have some Fiberall Lite. I'm also going to wipe over this just to go ahead and bridge a little further so I can even rough up a few inches past. I want this whole thing to blend, and you know, if you got a repair here, you really got to blend and blend and blend. So I'll see where I get down to with this. I also have my little billy sander I wanted to try today, and it is this little mini straight line deal here. I think that's going to work nice for us. I'm sure Amazon sold 1 million of those after somebody signed off on them. Which, here's my other side if y'all want to see it. I had a little bit of lifting here because I couldn't clamp it. but I may go ahead and just cut that with my cutoff wheel. This extra stuff here that didn't get wiped, I'll just cut it straight across because it's got to get sanded down anyway. If I can make my life easier in any form or fashion, I'm going to. So I'll see what I can do and get started. And I still got a little lumpiness through here I have to fix, but I wanted to tape off where that line is so I can kind of reproduce it. And I kept it here, and you can see it kind of got ground off there. It saved it here. So when this is all done, I've got, best I can tell, there's like 5 planes I have to keep. And I went ahead and marked them. That's a little number 1. That outside edge needs to be that thick all the way around. Number 2 is a flat edge, and I've got that pretty consistent. I mean, that's the big flat easy edge. 3 is kind of another angle that goes in. 4 is just a straight angle, best I can tell, and then 5 is another straight. So this is kind of a 90 here with a little roll in it. And the back glass rubber will come out and cover that if it ends up ugly. But so far it looks pretty good. But you see I have a hole here because I got so thin after I tried to round that back out. I went ahead and punched it out, and you can even see my kind of inner layer of fiberglass in there, and that's very, 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 very strong. That's not, there's no flex in that anymore, so I feel great about that. My number 1 edge, if you follow it, it does stay pretty good here. It's a little lumpy through here, but that's fine. I can fix that later. So right now I'm giving that a pass for, I don't need to stack a lot more filler on that. It's pretty close. My number 2 angle, I mean, it's good here, low, good here, you know, minus the little tiny stuff like that. But a lot of that can come out actually with, as fine as that is, like the glazing putty can do that. But my number 3 angle, there's a hole there now. It's low here, pretty good here, it's a little low there, and then we're back to normal here. My number 4 angle is just a straight. Obviously it needs a lot of work. And then my number 5 is actually pretty good because I didn't really get into that very much. So I got to work on 3 and 4 big time between here and here. So I'm going to use my Fiberall Lite. I'm going to fill my hole in first, and I think I can get it sanded down and then go ahead and coat from there in to there. With it, I have to do this, so I'll probably just go on back to here, or even if I keep spreading it just past that, very, 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 as thin as I can get it. I'm trying to save myself some sanding time, but that's where that piece is. Same thing through here. You see I have some holes. This is not thin by any means, like it doesn't move, but kind of those holes in there, I may go ahead and grind those out so my Fiberall will get on in there. I can smash it in, press it in with my paddle. This is pretty okay-ish. Still low right there, so I'm gonna end up wiping probably from there all the way over again. I got this rounded off okay. That angle's ugly, so it needs love. And through here, like I said, it's still ugly, so we'll keep pushing. This is, my outside edge there is pretty good until I get to here where it kind of shreds up, and I'll need to grind that off and replace it with some Fiberall as well. But I'm getting closer. Yeah, we are looking much better now. That's the first coat of Fiberall. Filled in my hole beautifully. It's probably going to take some more, but at least now I've kind of got the formation of that number 3 angle right there. And this side, I just hit the lows. I went ahead and ground down here again so that I could wipe my Fiberall and make it about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick where it wraps over. And there's actually a hole there I drilled previously, so I connected it through the hole. That's nice. Smeared it over best I could, and low spot there, filled it in, blended it, pulled these angles. So here we are, all hardened up. Some of these crispy edges I need to get sanded off, and I think I can start shaping. It's been, I don't know, 2 days. I did this Monday afternoon. Today's Wednesday, so breaks off there pretty good. So we know it's hard. Tried any at all. Here's a piece of 80, half worn. Obviously, I'm not going to hand sand this whole thing, but it is turning to powder, so that's good. They say it's easily sandable, but I'm going to probably get my billy sander out and run over this dude. Some people call them a stir stick, and wrap my paper around that so I can make myself a nice small square block. Try to get in where I fit in here. And we'll be back. I had to shoot me a little bit of black spray paint on here to be able to actually see the different angles and how well I'm doing or not doing. I'm gonna say this is probably about 60% right now done. My angle gets a little wonky through here, and just kind of some highs and lows. I think what I'm gonna do is measure off of the inner 90 there and put myself that first line. Then I'm going to measure off that 90 and give myself the second line as I drag all the way through. And that way, or even I can go first line, second line, see where they're at. Double check. Yeah, it hasn't moved. Let's see what we get. All right. Like that edge needs to drop a little there. I had to lay out a tape line on the outside, and then I pulled my line. Then I came back with my straight edge razor and just cut on the edge of that line. So now I have a pretty good idea of where I need to sand and what I want that to look like. Basically, my angle here is very consistent. I'm just hanging over a little bit there. But I can work that bottom line now, and I'm gonna call that pretty good. This side, it got a little bit lumpy through here, and that's where I had to wipe twice on my Fiberall Lite. But it's nice and thick there. I just have to work it down to where it's concentric and keep going. So I need to probably lay this in to my blue tape. You can see that little line there. Ignore that line. The blue tape is accurate, more accurate on this side. So let me go back to sanding. Here is the only coat of filler I'm going to put on this. I mean, polyester filler, non-stranded. So I filled in all my low spots. You can see that's black there. I'd shaved this with a razor blade as it was drying, but I got a really nice curve there. So my sanding should be pretty minimal. Most of this is coming off anyway, but I went ahead and was sure to cover all my lows. Same thing over here. It was just a little wonky in here. So you can see I had a spot pull up there, but that's fine. Most of this is going away, but I wanted to show you the step. I had debated using glazing putty. I like the UPOL 2-part glazing putty, but this is kind of like, some of those little spots would be borderline too thick for that stuff. I mean, they're all, you know, 1/16 of an inch or less, but right here I was just a little low, remember, and it still looks, it looks low from here because it shaves down there, gets narrower, but the factory one gets narrower there. So I'm just trying to match best I can. And I had a wrap around the edge just barely there. So it looks boogered up right now, but when the sanding happens, I think everything's gonna go my way. After my sanding of all that filler, I feel really, really, really good about this. I know it looks 10,000 times better than two giant cracks running through here. And once it's painted up, I think it's gonna be good. I got a little bit of spot putty left to do. If I can find, maybe right there. I don't even know if it'll focus on it. Right there. Little there. But I think I'm ready to actually prime this stuff. That way I can really see what's transpired. And I went ahead and popped my trim off here because I'm going to paint gold from here up. So I got to get this sanded. I went ahead and scrubbed off all the old duct tape. Lots of duct tape glue on there, so that's gone. I got to get this sanded, and then I want to try to prime from here up at the same time. That way it'll have one good coat on it at least before I do my wet sanding, blocking, whatever I'm going to do. So let me get that prepped and I'll bring you back for prime time. I do believe we're gonna call it right here. We got our 2 coats of primer on. I went ahead and I had a little spot over here. It almost ran on me. It's fine. It'll be next week before I can even get back to this. So I like to let my primer dry as long as possible in case it does want to shrink up a little bit, but my repairs look pretty good. I feel good about them. And I know the windshield rubber, you can kind of see that faint line right there, or back glass rubber. It actually folds up on about halfway up that last angle. So it's going to help make my bodywork look better. But again, we're doing so much better than having giant cracks. So I got enough primer on here. I think I can block, add my little bit of spot putty, and we should be good to go. You can see it's already flashing off again. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.